Hi, Analisa 6 here with the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator to bring you the May 2023 horoscope for the zodiac sign of Sagittarius for Sun and Rising sign placements. Sagittarius, Sun, and Rising. I am with you. I am a Sag Rising. This is for me just as much as it is for you. I'm excited to check out the chart. Let's take a look at it. I'm just kind of warning everybody, the last half of the zodiac is getting me post eclipse and I am very tired. So I'm just saying that now because I might have a little bit of word salad going on today. All right. So, and I'm going to share anecdotes. So I'm just letting y'all know I'm totally going to be projecting my own eclipse story into this because it's amazing. And I feel like I get to do that because this is my channel. So of course I'm going to talk about myself. I'm a Leo. Of course I'm going to talk about myself, right? Okay, so we entered May with a big energy in the sign of Taurus. It's Taurus season, but we've got a stellium happening in Taurus. So we have the North Node in Taurus, we've got Mercury in Taurus, we've got Vesta in Taurus, the part of Fortune is in Taurus, the Sun is in Taurus, and Uranus is in Taurus. So giant stellium in Taurus is what we entered the month of May with. We also entered May with Mercury retrograde in the sign of Taurus. And on the 2nd, Mercury and the Sun teamed up in the sky and made what is called a cazimi. And so I've been saying this in all the videos, but May was off to a bit of a rocky start, having Mercury retrograde with a Sun conjunction. And we probably felt like, a little discombobulated, a little dysregulated. Mercury passing through Taurus retrograde has definitely made matters of health, finances, material things, work-related things less smooth for Sagittarius. This has been passing through the area of the Sag rising chart that has to do with health and wellness, daily routine, and also how we're of service in the world in the work that we're doing. And so there's an amplification of those things. It's not necessarily negative, but it's just kind of like shining a big light there. And then Mercury retrograde kind of puts a little bit of this back and forth, or, there's reflect and review energy, but there's also challenges where things are not necessarily moving as smoothly as you would like them to. And so, yeah, we started out May a little discombobulated. We also started out May with Venus in Gemini, Mars in Cancer, Jupiter in Aries, and Saturn in Pisces, Uranus in Taurus, Neptune in Pisces, and Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. One of the things I've been failing to mention is that Pluto station retrograde at the start of May. Pluto is an outer planet, and not saying that it doesn't affect us, it totally does, but the retrograde cycle is one that tends to be more subtle, like it's not as overt as a Mercury or Venus or Mars retrograde. So it's just not something that I care to talk about, I guess. So let's talk about some of the themes of this retrograde and what happened during the eclipse before we get into the rest of the month with the planets. So we had an eclipse yesterday at 14 degrees of Scorpio. And so when we have a lunar eclipse, it's when we have a full moon. So the sun and the moon are in opposition to each other. This was a prenumbral eclipse, not a total eclipse. And we had this passing through the area of the Sagittarius horoscope chart that has to do with the Taurus, 6th house themes that have to do with daily routine, health and wellness, how we're of service in the world, those types of things. And then the area that the moon was passing through is the 12th house area that has to do with the subconscious and our soul's journey, past life karma, our connection to our dreams, our spirituality. And I will say, leading up to this eclipse, I had dreams about a past ex, and I never have dreams about exes very frequently, but when they come up, I feel like it's usually around these celestial events where there's like stuff from the past that's getting kicked up in a really extreme way. And this dream is one of those dreams that like I normally wouldn't tell my husband because it's embarrassing. I feel like when the subconscious does things that you're like, ew, I do not want to be back in that reality, or that's not real, and why did my subconscious do that? But it was just such a funny dream, and I felt like I had to tell my husband. And so, Scorpio in the 12th house, like it makes sense that like a past lover would come up in a dream space, right? So one of my exes came up in my dream and we started hanging out as friends, and my husband in the dream was out of town. And we were just hanging out platonically, like, oh, we dated years ago when we were kids, and like it's fully irrelevant now. But then as we started hanging out, he started to kind of express that he wanted to be in a relationship with me again. This was so long ago, it's like 15 years ago that we actually dated. And so in the dream, I remember being really proud of myself when I woke up, and I feel like that's why I told my husband. But of course, my husband was like, "You had this dream about your ex." He got all annoyed with me about it. But I thought it was funny because in the dream, I basically told this ex partner of mine, I was like, "I am married to the love of my life. No one, nothing is going to come between me and my husband. Like, he is my number one. He is everything. I'm so happy with him. I would never do anything to compromise that. Like, I am not getting back together with you. Like, how dare you, kind of thing." So that was my dream I had, I think, the night of the 4th. So the day before, while the eclipse was like ingressing or whatever. And then the other thing that's been going on for me on an individual level that I think had more to do with the 6th house themes was that I have been trying to get health insurance for a few years now. And because I'm married and because I've been self-employed and I don't make a lot of money. I didn't make a lot of money over the last few years because of the pandemic and various things. But I tried to qualify for government funded healthcare multiple times and kept getting denied over and over and over again. And part of that is because I'm married and my husband makes enough money to where we hit an income bracket that is too much for government funding. Then I tried to enroll in health insurance, not government funded, and got denied because it was not the proper enrollment period. And I also didn't have proper documentation. Like, me just needing it wasn't enough because I didn't have a doctor's note saying that I needed it right now or anything like that. So I was very frustrated, and we've been trying to get the insurance through my husband's job, which has been taking forever. Like, they've been trying to get this set up over a period of months, and it just hasn't been going through for whatever reason. And I've just been waiting, and I have all these health issues that I need to get tested on that are the testing's really expensive, which is why I've been waiting to get insurance to do it. And so I've been in this mode of like limbo for months and years. I haven't had health insurance since my early 20s. I mean, it's been like a decade since I had health insurance. And so it's just been frustrating. And I had a session with a friend yesterday. I was doing a chart reading for a friend yesterday. And after she left, it's the eclipse. The eclipse has already happened, but it's, the day of the eclipse yesterday. And I go check the mail. And in the mailbox are the insurance cards for us. And we finally have health insurance. And I was so blown away because in my natal chart, in whole signs, my house of health is where the eclipse was happening. So in the Sagittarius horoscope chart, the health is highlighted. And so if you're Sag rising, that's where the eclipse is happening. And so for me to finally get my health insurance card on the day of the eclipse, with the eclipse happening in that axis of health, I was just blown away. I didn't think it was going to happen until Mercury was direct, because Mercury is retrograde here. So I just assumed like, oh, it's probably not going to happen until it's direct. But no, it happened on the eclipse while Mercury is still retrograde. So, I'm obviously nervous about the retrograde a little bit because I don't want that hindering my appointments or making my appointments more difficult. I'm mentally prepared in case that happens. But it was pretty cool. I was pretty amazed about that. So that's my little eclipse story. And, obviously everyone's going through different stuff. And so, feel free to share in the comments with me if on May 5th you had any interesting things happen around your work or your health, or even your spirituality or the past, because where the moon is in that area that has a lot to do with our karmic past and things that we're working through on a very deep spiritual level. And I do think my health issues are tied to that as well. So I think, the fact that I was doing an astrology session with somebody and also navigating this health stuff, it just felt very in line. So I'm curious about how that may have affected other Sag dominant people. So feel free to let me know in the comments. But yeah, so that was just kind of a fun thing to discuss. And, now I'm very exhausted and tired in the post-eclipse shadow, which I'm sure a lot of us are. And I just wanted to sleep in and veg out. And just be lazy, take care of myself. So that's kind of had a lazy morning, but now we're working out of the eclipse shadow, and tomorrow Venus is going to be moving into the sign of Cancer after she's been in Gemini for the past month. And so Venus has been transiting the area of the Sagittarius chart that has to do with partnership. And Venus is such an amazing planet to have going through our relationship house because it rules the relationship house. So it does really well in this house. And it also makes us feel a lot more inclined to want to connect with our partners or best friends and be romantic, lovey-dovey, all that kind of stuff. And if you're single and you're not experiencing like an actual partnership, it does amplify our desire to meet somebody or date or experience partnership or connection in that way. And so it's really good for like those close partnered relationships, whether it's romantic or even a best friend or a business partner, connecting in that way. So Venus has been blessing that area. And I definitely feel that. I feel like my partner and I have been, doing really well and being very romantic and lovey-dovey with each other. And I just feel like I'm in a really good place in my relationship. And even when we've had little tiffs, it's like we just laugh about it and resolve it really quickly. It doesn't escalate into anything. So I can feel Venus, they're really blessing that area. So I'm sad that she's leaving, but in Cancer, Venus is entering the area that rules marriage and shared resources, assets, and sex. And so Venus entering that tomorrow on the 7th, entering Cancer and entering that 8th house area makes that area amplified in a positive way as well. So if you are thinking about taking on loans or investments or reinvesting your money or taking on any assets or conjoining your assets with someone, that is going to be supported for the rest of May. However, we do still have Mercury retrograde until the evening of the 14th. So I wouldn't do anything or take action on any of those things until after May 20th, to be honest. Because then we'll be completely out of the shadow period. But, this should be beneficial for us in connecting with partners that we're in, contractual agreements with, like marriage, or anybody that we share assets or resources with. It's positive for the Sag dominant person. Shortly after Mercury stations direct, Jupiter's going to leave Aries and enter Taurus. And so again, this is going to enter the area of health and wellness and how we're of service in the world and also our daily routines. And so we get kind of this desire to grow and expand and evolve with Jupiter here. And it also brings blessings and, kind of this amplification of energy. And so it's interesting, like Jupiter's going to be in Taurus for the rest of the year. And for me on a personal level, again, sharing anecdotally, this is the area of health in the Sag rising chart. And it's just, watching, I feel like I could have predicted, like, of course, I'm finally going to get to start seeing a doctor and have my health stuff dealt with while Jupiter's in this area of the chart, right? Like that makes the most sense. And I'm grateful that Jupiter's going to be here because Jupiter is considered to be the benefic. It's supposed to bring good things. Of course, sometimes Jupiter brings just a lot of things and it's not necessarily always good. It's just a lot because Jupiter is a very larger than life expansion kind of energy. So it'll be interesting to see what my health journey is like while Jupiter's passing through this area. But it makes me feel like if you as a Sag dominant person are also navigating health stuff, we are very supported in that journey with Jupiter here. And we're also most likely going to get some answers and figure some things out. The only thing that I would be inclined towards cautioning for us, is that when there's a lot of energy in this area, we are prone to hyper fixating or overdoing things. So you could over cleanse or over obsess over your health or overly stress out or worry about those things. So, just remembering balance and moderation is important. But Taurus is a very grounded energy. It's very stabilizing. So I think that this Jupiter and Taurus energy here is going to be beneficial for most of us, especially it's our ruling planet as Sag dominant people. So I think it's also positive in that way. Ooh, there is a squirrel running on we have a stucco wall as our fence line and there's a squirrel on it. And my dogs just got so excited. They're like, what is that squirrel doing in our shit? Okay. So after Jupiter enters, Yeah, I mean, pretty much right after Jupiter enters Taurus around the 17th, we're going to have a new moon happening in Taurus as well. That happens on, let's see here. I don't know why I don't have this memorized right now. I've said it so many freaking times. May 19th happens at 28 degrees of Taurus. And again, it's hitting that area of the health and daily routine. I haven't talked a lot about the daily routine part. So the sixth house rules daily routine. And so our daily routine, you know, how do we wake up in the morning? How do we nourish ourselves in the morning? How do we nourish ourselves in the day? What are our plans in the day? What is our evening routine? Since I'm not working, I have a lot of wiggle room, and sometimes I'll fall into habits that aren't always the best. So I try to be really mindful about things I do every morning and every night to set myself up for success with my nutrition and also my sleep and all of that. And then whatever I want to do during the day is kind of up to me, but I do, you know, at least try to get some exercise in every week, a few days out of the week. And you know, I just try to make sure that I'm drinking enough water and hitting all those kinds of goals. And so that's something that is positive to set intentions towards on the new moon, is how are you setting your day up for success? If you've got goals, you know, like there was a period of time where I wanted to do yoga every morning. And so that was a goal for me. It was like, okay, at least 4 to 5 days a week, I want to do yoga every morning. And so those are the kinds of things that you might be thinking about during this new moon on the 19th is, you know, do I have a healthy daily routine in the morning, at night, in the middle of the day? What's my relationship to that? And, you know, how can I make it better? Or, you know, how can I set myself up for success? So those are some things that you'll be reflecting on during that new moon, and also are positive for you to focus on. And your health, of course, is positive for you to focus on during this time too. And then also how you're of service. This is the house that represents the work that we're doing in a service way to others. And it also is the area that represents pets. And so those themes come up as well. And you can set intentions around those themes if that's something that you care about, if you're volunteering or doing that type of work. After that, we have a few days later, the sun will move into Gemini on the 21st, I believe. I'm being kind of loosey-goosey about that. So let's actually figure out what the actual date is for the sun. I think it's the 21st, but it might actually be the 20th. It changes every year. Sun enters Gemini on the 21st. So it's going to be a Gemini, and then Mars is also going to be entering the sign of Leo. And Leo and Sagittarius energy complement each other because fire likes fire. And, you know, Gemini is the opposition of Sagittarius. And so again, it's a polarity. So there's kind of this opposites attract thing that happens, but it also is our opposite in a way that sometimes can feel like there's tension. And, you know, Gemini with the sun here, it highlights our relationships. It's entering that relationship house again. And the sun brings energy and vitality to whatever it's passing through. And so we might have more of an emphasis during Gemini season on our partner or on other people. And it's a positive time to connect with our partner and other people, but it might be hard sometimes for us to have that alone time or feel like we're getting to connect with ourselves. So that might be something that we have to make more of an effort to do over Gemini season. And then with Mars entering Leo around the same time, let's go ahead and check out where that's happening in the chart. That's happening in the area that has to do with, so we've had Mars in Cancer, and then did I talk about Venus entering Cancer? Yes, I did. So Mars was in that position, and now Mars is going to be leaving and going into Leo in the area of the chart that has to do with our values, belief systems, religion, spirituality, travel. So travel, like long distance travel. I'm also reflecting. I'm like, oh wow, I will be out of town on the day that actually I think I'm coming home on the day that Mars is transiting from an out of town trip. So that kind of makes me laugh. But it amplifies that. So we might feel restless. We might feel a need to kind of get out of mundane life and experience the world or other things. We also might have an inclination towards wanting to enroll in an education program and learn something new, and that is supported here. We might also be experiencing some internal conflict around certain beliefs that we've had in the past and maybe how those are evolving or changing. I'll be curious to see how this impacts me around my astrology practice, because I've been doing these horoscopes since November. And one of the things that I'll share anecdotally around beliefs and values changing is that I've had a lot of beliefs and values change around the way I view health in the last year when it comes to my health problems and just various things that I've learned. And so that's been really interesting. And then another thing that happened, I've been studying astrology actively in this way that is more deep since my mid-20s. And I've been doing transpersonal humanistic astrology using a specific house system called Placidus. And one of my good astrology friends does traditional astrology and uses a whole sign house system. And I love traditional astrology, and I've definitely had an interest in it and studied certain parts of it in succession with my transpersonal studies. I've studied a lot of different modalities of astrology in kind of like a tip way. And then with my transpersonal practice, like that's been my deeper practice. And when 2021 and 2022 were happening, I was talking a lot to this friend about my chart, and because she does whole signs and I do Placidus house system, it's different, the interpretations, while still being they complement each other well, but they're different. And one of the things that started to happen for me was that the interpretation of my whole sign chart started to feel more relevant to what was happening out in my life in a more external way, even though the transpersonal part feels more relevant to how it feels internally. And that was a really cool thing for me to witness, is like, wow, transpersonal astrology really is this like internal person-centered journey. And traditional astrology, while it still has some of those qualities, just really matches more of what's like physically actually happening in the external part of my life more. And so I've been in this bubble where I'm looking at my chart next to each other with both house systems, and I like, my chart is in both house systems in my brain, so I'm always teetering back and forth between them. And when I do readings for other people, I'm doing them in a transpersonal Placidus way. But now I'm seeing their chart in a whole sign system while I'm doing that reading, and I'm seeing both things coinciding. And I've been teetering between whether or not I really want to dive into traditional astrology and whole signs more actively and pursue that as more of a profession later in my life, or just for fun. I mean, I think it's better for me to focus on things in a just for fun way than a professional way. But I've been definitely reflecting on whether or not I want to convert to being a whole science person, but I also am not sure if I could ever fully do one modality. I think that I'm definitely somebody that enjoys having multiple modalities of things that I do. So I'm also kind of like, how do I do both things? But my beliefs have changed. The way in which I related to my birth chart when I first started has evolved so much in studying different modalities of astrology, and also having friends that do it differently and sharing their wisdom with me. And it's actually been a lot more constructive for me to see my chart in a whole sign perspective with what's been going on in my life. So that's been really evolution of self. And I see Mars as entering this area of the chart as potentially highlighting kind of where I have this desire to explore that and change potentially the way that I've been doing things, or I don't even want to say change so much as grow and evolve and build upon it. And, this is the house of the seeker. This is the house of seeking more truth, more knowledge. And so with Mars here, it's going to enter, on the 21st, and then it's going to be there for all of June. And so, it's not going to enter into Virgo until it looks like July. And so we're going to have a pretty long stint of Mars amplifying this area for us. And we might just be really fascinated and interested in learning something new, some new information while that's happening. So I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be a good energy for Sag, and fire likes fire. So we're going to get also that trine to our ascendant that's going to amplify our willpower to put ourselves out there in our own life. So if you've been in kind of more of this introverted place or more focused on your partner and not so much on yourself, you might feel like that's getting amplified back into yourself somewhat. We still have more pulling us over to this other side, but when it comes to your own studies and your own beliefs, you might be feeling more inclined to want to delve more into that, and you're supported in that. All right, Sagittarius, I hope you enjoyed my storytelling. I know some people really dislike hearing anecdotal stories and they just want the facts. I am not that way. My family's not that way. I like stories. I like anecdotes. And that's how I experience things and how I relate to things. So hopefully you enjoyed it. If you liked listening to my stories or your horoscope, feel free to hit the like button. If you want to get notified on future videos, hit subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment, and I will see you guys next month. You can find me at the Lady of Leisure and the Sober Curator.com.